Leon was great for this record. He's super talented across the board. He's an incredible mixer. Like, I thought the mixes he did were so cool because there was a total art to it. Like, he was adding his own textural elements to the song.
We connected with him in a unique way where it just felt like we were all on board with each other. We kind of felt like, okay, he knows what we're trying to do, and we also have confidence with how he's going to come in and work with us.
Leon had a lot of great ideas. We had Leon in the room with us quite a few times before the record, and we were sending emails back and forth, sending songs, getting opinions, trying things out. But Leon had so many ideas with the record that really made it grow.
He helped us write some of the songs. Like, I remember personally, in terms of like melodic structure, when we were working on Softly, he would just be like, you know what, like, there's a way for this verse to be better. And I thought the verse was great. Like, it was da-na, da-na, da-na. Like, that was the verse. I thought that was so cool. I was like, yeah, we're like sitting in that melody. And Leon's like, no, like, we need to go into this verse and add little bits where you're doing something else. And structurally, we can add this. It was a big challenge because it's hard to like really rally behind an idea you don't click with right away, but it made it so much better. The thing is that he could do that for all of us. He would come in and be like, okay, Tanner, we need to do this with this drum part. You know, we need to add something here. I think that's an incredible strength of his, is to see something that the band's doing and being like, okay, this, I know what your initial thought is here, and here's how we can make it better.
When you listen to the record, each of us know who mixed what song, and it's something that I like appreciate, having two creative minds in the room. They're so different. I can't describe it. There's no like words to describe like their minute differences in their creative techniques. Leon is also very encouraging, very positive, but there's a different vibe about Leon than James, and they were so key in the process of making the record. And I think having those two important figures in the room, you know, writing the songs with us and like producing it was a match made in heaven. James, yeah, James Bunton, yeah, he was one of the producers on Is Heaps, and he's just been a very positive spirit, and he's been such a great guy with this whole process of transitioning to Heaps, and he's super creative, and he's very vocal and very encouraging. So yeah, respect James.
He became such an integral part of like acknowledging like, hey, you guys have been sitting with these songs for these months, but like, I come in as a first-time listener and I hear this and this and this. Or, you know, we got in the studio and we'd go through one take and he'd be like,
okay, Tanner, at 102 this, at 354 this.
Hey, Luke, I need you to hone in on this part here. Like, that's not crunchy enough. And Warren, you're singing this part wrong.
He has just such an eye for detail and such a, just like Leon, but just such a great ear for music, and he became as well such a great interpreter of our music and what was going on, and a contributor to it.
Leon really helped with the overall structure of the songs and, you know, big ideas throughout the 6 to 8 months we worked with him before James came in, and James really fine-tuned things.
He's a person that I really admire, you know, and so working with him is a treat. Like, vocally, I got to go to his house and his home studio, and we would record like once a week for like a month, and then we would just like have lunch and chat. He brought in like a book of poems, and he was like, Warren, you should read this while we're in here. I was really connecting with this. I think you would like it. And that kind of stuff just brings about this intentional environment that changes the dynamic in a studio, I think, because all this, like, as much as we felt respected by these guys, as much as we felt like a team, there's still these older guys that know way more than us. And so these little instances of like, hey, we're on the same like level playing field, you should read this thing because it's affecting me, I think it'll affect you positively. Those little things make a huge difference.
A lot of the sound, I would say, has to rest on a lot of what the guitar stuff was doing, you know? I think that really changed a lot of the sound of where things would have gone.
Pre-production, when I was just recording stuff in my room, I had my my Strymon Big Sky with me, and I started off with that really big hall reverb sound, and then once we got to we did some more pre-production on the Toronto Island studio with Dale Morningstar. I think I experimented with just like, because we're just doing it live off the floor, so when I was back in my bedroom, I was just layering a ton of guitars, but then once we got to Dale Morningstar's, it was just live off the floor, so I think that really helped me kind of unlock this like singular reverb tone with my guitar, with just like the bass of the songs. And then once I got into the studio, it was this one pedal, I think it's called the Taken
delay pedal by Platisk, I think it's the name of the company. That came into play and offered Freddie what I think he coined as the sad grandpa sound.
Sad grandpa is a tone description that we had throughout the record. As soon as we found sad grandpa, he started crying all over the place, and he's crying on this, he's crying about that. What is he crying about? He's got like a whole history of, you know, maybe he's been through a war, or at least war times. You know, he's had kids, he's had friends that have died and things like that. Sad grandpa has a lot on his shoulders.
Sound like sad grandpa. It's really hard to describe, but I think it's this kind of modulated delay, and it really kind of just like made this warbly mess that kind of, for some songs, especially Softly, the lead line is the sad grandpa at its finest, and it sounds so unique. So I think we used that on the records. It's got to have been like more than 5 times, like that exact same tone. We didn't even touch the knobs.
Freddie is like the scientist, I think, behind a lot of things, like specifically on this record compared to the last, like came up with a lot of weird shit.
Freddie is a creative force. Freddie is the one who brings every song into a very exciting place. Freddie is the one who will, on every song, shocks you with what he comes up with next.
He is always trying to find cool tones, and not in a way of being like, I'm a tone guy, you know? He's not like a gearhead or like a braggart, but he's finding tones because he really wants to find the sounds that resonate with him. And that plays into our sound.
Well, my main role with the record was writing drum parts for every song. When I approached a song, it's a good combination of A, the music I grew up playing, B, the parts that are being given to me that I'm feeding off of, and I think a big inspiration, or a big thing, is what I'm listening to at the time. I grew up playing punk music and hardcore music, so I like playing drums loud and heavy. But on top of that, I went to school for jazz, so I think the combination of, you know, heavy, loud, fast punk drumming and the complexities and delicacies of jazz drumming make a pretty weird combo.
Tanner is a phenomenal drummer. And I feel like I have to tell people this all the time that don't know music that well, because Tanner plays, you know, his face isn't necessarily whipping around, you know, he's not visually as animated as some more performative drummers, but he's better than those drummers. And I just feel like I'm constantly telling people, like, this is the best guy.
I can argue with anyone in the world about Tanner's ability to drum, and I'll always win. Whatever idea is at play, you can bank on Tanner not only writing a part that'll just work and it'll be fine, but writing a part which will elevate.
A lot of the songs we had sent Leon were quite complex drum-wise, and he said, send me something straightforward. Like, on the next song you send me, I want the drums to be simple. And I was like, perfect. We're listening to this sort of music, and that's what I want to try. A lot of the time, simplicity is harder than playing something complex, because it comes down to feel and the way you play it. And yeah, just a 4 on the floor doesn't seem hard, but it really is.
you can really hear the kind of passionate grit in the playing on the record, and there's so much kind of subsidiary drums that are like different snares that he used. It's something that we've never really kind of experimented with, different drum tones.
Watching Tanner drum was really, again, I have no idea what song it was, but having those moments of being like, oh yeah, everything is gelling right now. He is drumming exactly as he wants to be, and it's sounding exactly like him, whatever that means, and he's nailing what he wants to nail.
Yeah, I think for what I kind of my focus with this record and with my bass playing, a big part of it was trying to just continually be humble with where I was at and just try and put forward my best effort for the song, right? And so whether that is just keeping it simple and hitting, you know, raw, like simple quarter notes, or, you know, there were moments where we were songwriting and somebody said, hey, Luke, how about you take a bass solo here? Which is just like nothing that I would have ever done myself, but I was definitely pushed by the team to be a bit more dynamic with my bass playing, because I think I was coming in with an effort just to serve the song.
One of the biggest kind of differences between some of the Ken stuff is kind of the bass tones on What Is Heaps, and I think using that bass in such a different way, it makes it a completely different animal. And I think, again, yeah, I think Luke also had a very positive kind of realization in that bass could be used as a lead line, or, you know, there's a couple songs on the record where bass is like there's solos, like bass solos where it's a really fuzzy tone.
I equated serving the song with simplicity, but the team really drew out of me a bit more complexity with bass and a little more fun with bass. And playing bass on this record ended up being a lot more of an enjoyable experience than I expected, because I was pushed to elevate my tone, I was pushed to elevate my lines, and I was pushed to, we as a whole were pushed to elevate our performance.
I remember being in here at Union and tracking the bass on, I have no idea what song, no idea, but listening back and being like, oh yeah, all of the stuff we've been talking about, Luke has now put together in this composed, choreographed bass part that runs all the way through, changes states, changes sounds, does exactly what is supposed to happen, and he's actualized it really well. It was like a performance of a choreographed composition just in the bass. And I think that's less about tools and more just about like the mentality and approach that was really rewarding to hear.
This record experience, or this recording experience with Luke, was unlike any other because we're standing next to each other in the same room and we were able to be locked in. I think recording live off the floor was a huge asset for Luke and I's relationship as musicians and how we sound together on the record.
Luke's the guy that went off to America, and he was the guy that we thought was gonna come back from college and be like, all right, like I gotta go get a real job. And then he's just become like the most wild creative force. It's really cool. It's like out of left field. Now he's bringing in more, you know, musical ideas than he ever has. Like and weird cool ones too, like A Warm Request. I think it just came from his inspiration, hearing different time signatures and different chord sounds and wanting to make something. And it just turned into one of our favorite songs to play live. There's an artist there that I think people don't necessarily realize because he plays the bass. And that's crazy. I think this is probably the first record ever that I contributed like a guitar line, like on Crime, and it was the first time ever I was playing like live for the Beds. It was scary for me because I'm incredibly untrained and I don't have like theory background, so singing has always been this thing that I love to do, but every next step that we take is a daunting step because I'm like, oh man, I'm out of my element with these professionals, because I am not. You know, it was easy to get past that this time. I think because of the environment that we were in, was so collaborative. Voices were heard, encouragement was given, and we got the right product.
Not only seeing him grow as a vocalist through the whole process of being in a band with him, but significantly with this record, guitar was huge for him, and something we didn't really think of going into the record was, when we were in studio, was how the hell are we going to play all these parts? So I think, the amount of time that Warren's put into, bettering himself a guitar, and the amount of gear he had bringing into the studio compared to the previous experience was a great asset.
On this record, I have just a huge amount of respect and pride for Warren. How he pushes himself, how he progresses is very inspiring to the rest of us to push ourselves further. And not to mention, like, he's got just such, from the beginning, from the outset of this band, from when we were 16, 17 years old, he's always had the ability to feel out a melody and to write something that's catchy, which catches people and provokes people. And he is also a dynamic force in songwriting, and just brings so much value to the table.
It was a transformative record for me as a whole, in just like realizing, just go in there and know that, like, as long as you're working hard, the right things will happen. It was an interesting record for me, again, because it was the first time I wasn't the primary lyricist, so I wasn't walking in there with all the lyrics and melodies kind of ready, So it felt like, at times, like it felt like a lot, because some of the songs weren't written all the way.
Singing is a lot more personal than, like, let's say guitar playing, because you're singing the lyrics and you can hear the emotion behind, like, a singer's voice. And I think for Warren, you can hear a lot of that emotion and a lot of that comfort with the songs on the record.
I got to spend a lot of time with Warren doing vocals, and I think it's a little bit hard to, like, isolate one moment specifically, but what I think was evident was that he was able to give it and then give it again and give it again and go to next level places in how much he was offering in each performance consistently, and that was really exciting. And just always trying to better and nail it and yell when you needed to yell and whisper when you needed to whisper. Those kind of things are hard to do. The thing that I found instantly unique about the band was how the four members of the band cared about each other and interacted with one another. And it was something that you see with bands. You see camaraderie, love, all of those things, but there was something special about how the four members cared for one another and listened to one another and supported one another and continue to do that. And I think everything sort of has come together under that. That's the foundation upon which all of everything that we've done was built upon. This is a team that is in it to work hard on a thing they want to be working hard on for the reasons that they are choosing, not because they should or feel like it's cool to do it, or like, all of those weird other reasons that sometimes seep in. It was just genuine and great.